Hey everyone, I'm Kim, and welcome to The Brave Bookshelf, the podcast where we explore the stories that help kids and teens tackle life's toughest topics. If you're a teacher, counselor, librarian, parent, or just someone who believes books can spark big conversations, you're in the right place. Grab a cozy seat, maybe a snack, definitely a book, and let's dig into today's Brave Read.
Darling, don't you ever find it easier to just don't. I find it so much easier. Go and find your inner peace, my love.
Hello, and welcome back to the Brave Bookshelf with Kim Bartosh, where we explore stories that help raise brave readers and thoughtful families. Today's episode sits at the intersection of storytelling and responsibility. We're talking about representation in books, and when we're asking a question that many writers and educators and readers are quietly wrestling with right now. Can an author write outside their own identity? Can a white author write a black main character? Can an able-bodied author write a disabled protagonist? Can a straight author write LGBTQ characters? And what responsibility comes with that kind of storytelling? To explore this conversation, we're going to anchor it in on a new historical mystery, Heiress of Nowhere. And then we'll widen the conversation into the larger movement that helped make books like this possible. Heiress of Nowhere by Stacey Lee is set in 1918 on Orcas Island, Washington. Lucy Nowhere washed ashore as a baby in a green canoe and was raised by an eccentric shipbuilder. When seal heads begin appearing on the beaches and her guardian is murdered, Lucy suddenly finds herself at the center of suspicion, especially when she is unexpectedly named heir to the estate. The island whispers about curses and sea wolves, and Lucy believes there is a real killer. And she sets out to uncover the truth before she becomes the next victim. Now, before we dive into today's larger conversation, I want to share a quick personal review of this book. I really enjoyed the story. The history, the mystery, and the twists and turns kept me turning the pages. What stood out most to me was Lucy herself as the main character. I loved her resilience and her logic. She approaches the strange events on the island with curiosity and reasoning instead of fear. And she's the kind of character you can root for almost immediately. The book also does a wonderful job portraying the Orcas Islands, the wild coastline, the wildlife, and the communities that live there. The atmosphere of this setting really comes alive on the page. For me, this is absolutely a book that belongs in classrooms and libraries. It opens the door to discussion about history, mystery storytelling, and representation. Overall, this was a 4.5-star read for me. If you enjoy historical mysteries with strong characters and immersive setting, this is definitely a book to check out. But this story also connects to something bigger, because the author, Stacey Lee, behind it helped change the publishing landscape itself. In 2014, a grassroots campaign called We Need Diverse Books began drawing attention to something many readers had already noticed. Children's publishing did not reflect the real world. Most protagonists were white, most were straight, most were able-bodied, but classrooms aren't homogeneous. Families aren't homogeneous. Communities aren't homogeneous. The movement wasn't about replacing stories. It was about expanding them. Every child deserves two things in literature. One, a mirror to see themselves reflected, and the second, a window to understand someone different from themselves. And here's something especially meaningful for today's discussion. Stacey Lee, the author of Heiress of Nowhere, is one of the co-founders of We Need Diverse Books. So when we read this novel, we're reading a story written by someone who has actively worked to create more opportunities for diverse voices in publishing. Representation here isn't accidental. So let's talk about the big question. Can authors write characters outside their own identity? The short answer is yes. Fiction requires imagination. If writers could only write characters identical to themselves, we would lose entire genres, such as historical fiction, fantasy, science fiction, and stories that explore cultures or experiences beyond our own. Storytelling requires stepping outside ourselves, but imagination does not remove responsibility. The real question isn't, are you allowed? The real question is, how thoughtfully are you doing it? Writing across race, culture, disability, sexuality, or neurodiversity requires research, listening to lived experiences, sensitivity readers, humility, and openness to correction. This applies across many identities. A white author writing a Black protagonist, a Black or Asian author writing a white protagonist, an able-bodied author writing a disabled character, a straight author writing LGBTQ characters. The goal isn't restriction. The goal is thoughtful representation. Because historically, marginalized identities were often flattened into stereotypes in storytelling. And that leads us to some common pitfalls. When authors write across identities, there are some common patterns that readers and advocates often point out. One example appears in disability representation. Some stories fall into what advocates call inspiration porn. This is when a disabled character exists mainly to inspire able-bodied characters. For example, a character whose only role in the story is to teach the main character gratitude. Another issue is the overcoming disability trope, where the story treats disability as something that must be cured or conquered for the main character to have a happy ending. But many disabled readers want stories where disability is simply part of life, not the entire conflict. With LGBTQ representation, stereotyping can also appear. For instance, we all know the sassy gay best friend trope, where a queer character exists only as comic relief. Another issue is when LGBTQ stories focus only on trauma. Struggle is a part of many people's experiences, but so are friendship, adventure, humor, and joy. Readers want to see those stories too. With neurodivergent characters, one stereotype is the autistic genius. The idea that every autistic character must have an extraordinary intellectual abilities, a savant. While savant skills exist, they are rare. Many autistic readers simply want to see characters who share their experience in realistic ways. The point of these conversations isn't to limit imagination. It's to encourage better storytelling. So fortunately, there are many books that handle representation thoughtfully. One example is El Defo by C.C. Bell. This graphic memoir about growing up with hearing loss spins humor, imagination, and honesty while showing disability as a part of everyday life. Another powerful example is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which explores activism, community, and identity through the voice of a Black teen. For LGBTQ representation, many readers love Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Elier Cienz, a story about friendship, family, and identity that unfolds with quiet emotional depth. And another well-known classroom favorite is Wonder by R.J. Plesio, which encourages empathy and kindness through the story of a boy with a facial difference. Books like these remind us how powerful stories can be when they are written with care. Books shape how we see the world. They shape how children see themselves. So the question isn't, who is allowed to tell a story? The better question is, are we making room for more stories and telling them thoughtfully? Imagination opens doors. Responsibility keeps these doors open. And brave readers can hold both truths at the same time.
Thanks for spending time with me on the Brave Bookshelf. If today's episode helped you or gave you a few new ideas, be sure to follow the show and share it with a fellow book lover or child professional. You can find more Brave reads, discussion guides, and resources at kimbartosh.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep talking, and keep being brave.